Do you think scientists could resurrect a creature that vanished over 350 years ago? Well, experts just had a breakthrough, and the dodo, the symbol of extinction itself, might walk the earth again. But what if bringing it back isn't a miracle, but a disaster no one is talking about? Stay tuned to uncover the truth, and why resurrecting it could be the biggest mistake of the century. The paradise that vanished. The dodo's world may be completely gone, but 140 million years ago, they made a volcanic island a really special place. When this pigeon ancestor landed on Mauritius in the middle of the Indian Ocean, what they found was far better than they could have imagined: endless food and a predator-free zone. Over millennia, these birds evolved into something extraordinary. They grew massive, reaching over 3 feet tall and weighing up to 40 pounds. Their wings became useless stubs because why fly when you're the king of your domain? But the most fascinating thing about dodos was not just living in this ecosystem. They were the architect of it. When the dodo ate fruit, it wandered through the forest and released seeds elsewhere with nutrient-rich droppings. Some tree species, like the tambalacoke, could only germinate after their seeds passed through the dodo's digestive system. Its stomach contained smooth pebbles that crushed tough food like a biological grinder. This was survival engineering at its finest. It makes one wonder if the entire island was built around the dodo's survival. Would it ever truly return when this environment has already vanished? Stay with me, because the dodo has even deeper mysteries to uncover. The invisible killers. Now, here's where everything falls apart. When Dutch settlers arrived in 1638, they began hunting the dodo. The trees that depended on them for seed dispersal became endangered. Invasive plants like Chinese guava and privet have taken over, creating a completely different environment. These plants produce fruits the dodo never evolved to eat. But it gets worse because they also brought something deadly. Black rats, ship rats, and later brown rats invaded Mauritius like a tidal wave. And no, they weren't native predators the dodo had evolved alongside. They were more intelligent and extremely hungry. Also, they multiplied at a terrifying rate. Despite decades of conservation efforts, rats remained the island's dominant threat to ground nesting birds. A single pair of rats can produce up to 2,000 descendants in just 1 year under ideal conditions. But rats weren't the only problem. Pigs, cats, monkeys, and goats followed closely behind. And it gets worse because female dodos lay only 1 egg per year. They nested on shallow ground, completely exposed, and the incubation took weeks. That's where a single egg sits vulnerable on the forest floor, while rats patrol constantly, searching for food. Even if scientists successfully clone a dodo and release it into the wild, how would it defend its nest from these invasive populations? The genetic nightmare. Colossal Biosciences claims they've decoded the complete dodo genome. But that only sounds impressive till you know what they're not telling you. The dodo DNA they extracted comes from museum specimens that are centuries old. These samples are degraded and incomplete. Think of it like trying to rebuild a 10,000-piece puzzle when you only have 7,000 pieces, and many of those pieces are damaged. Scientists have to fill in the gaps using genetic data from the dodo's closest living relative, the Nicobar pigeon. But the Nicobar pigeon diverged from the dodo lineage millions of years ago. They're related? Yes, but they're radically different creatures. Using its DNA to patch holes in the dodo genome means the resulting creature won't be a pure dodo. It will be a hybrid that might look like a dodo, but could behave differently. When a creature is stitched together from fragments and fillers, does it still carry the soul of the original? Or is it just wearing a dodo's skin? The climate and breeding crisis. Modern Mauritius faces threats the historical dodo never encountered. Climate change has intensified tropical cyclones in the Indian Ocean. These massive storms strike Mauritius with increasing frequency and severity. They can devastate the island, destroying habitats, flooding nesting areas, and killing vulnerable species. A flightless bird like the dodo would be extremely vulnerable to these weather events. But cyclones aren't the only problem. Let's say scientists successfully create not just one dodo, but several. A healthy population needs genetic variation to survive long-term. Inbreeding leads to reduced fertility, increased disease susceptibility, and genetic defects that accumulate over generations. Conservation biologists use the 50/500 rule. A population needs at least 50 individuals to avoid inbreeding depression in the short term, and 500 for long-term genetic diversity. Creating even 50 genetically distinct dodos would require extraordinary resources, time, and success rates that current cloning technology simply cannot achieve. The first resurrected dodos would be genetic bottlenecks, their limited diversity a ticking time bomb for the population's future. Can a creature that spent millions of years without an enemy suddenly learn how to fight in a world that has become a battlefield? The competition crisis. Even if scientists create a genetically perfect dodo, there's a problem no amount of DNA can solve. Modern Mauritius is crowded with invasive bird species that the dodo never competed with. Red-whiskered red bulbuls, common mynas, Madagascar photes, and house sparrows now dominate the island. These birds are aggressive and already established in every habitat. They compete for food, nesting sites, and territory. Gentleness is a death sentence in a competitive environment, and these species would harass dodos, steal their food, and potentially mob them away from prime foraging areas. Studies of other reintroduced native species on Mauritius show that competition from invasives is one of the primary causes of failure. Even with human intervention, these programs struggle to give native birds an edge. The dodo evolved in isolation without competitive pressure and never developed aggressive behaviors or territorial defense mechanisms. It would be at a severe disadvantage. If a dodo can never be truly wild again, are we actually saving a species, or are we just soothing our own guilt by keeping it as a prisoner? The artificial world. With all being said, what would it actually take for resurrected dodos to survive? First, every single rat, cat, pig, monkey, and goat would need to be eliminated from Mauritius. It's a multi-billion-dollar undertaking that New Zealand attempted on much smaller islands with mixed success. Even then, new invasives could arrive on ships, and the eradication would need to be maintained indefinitely. But that's just the beginning. Scientists would need to create a completely enclosed environment designed to replicate historical Mauritius. This sanctuary would require 24-hour monitoring, predator-proof fencing, and climate control systems. Every dodo would need to be tracked, protected, and managed from birth to death. But this raises a philosophical question. If the dodo can only exist in an artificial bubble, fully dependent on human intervention for survival, is it really back? Or have we simply created a living museum exhibit? The original dodo was wild, free, and self-sufficient. A sanctuary dodo would be a prisoner in its own resurrection. The hybrid future. Here's what might actually happen. Instead of recreating the exact historical dodo, scientists might engineer a hybrid. A creature with dodo genetics, but enhanced with modern adaptations. Imagine a dodo with behavioral traits borrowed from the Nicobar pigeon to make it more wary of predators, or a dodo that can survive on modern vegetation instead of extinct tree species. This approach might be more efficient, but would this engineered creature really be a dodo? Or would it be a Frankenstein bird designed for survival in a world its ancestors never knew? Some scientists embrace this idea, arguing that extinction reversal does not need perfect historical accuracy. If a dodo-like bird can fill the dodo's ecological niche and survive in modern Mauritius, does it matter if its genetics are modified? The dodo might return, but its world is gone forever. If the dodo truly walks again, it will be a prisoner in a world that has moved on without it. Maybe extinction isn't something science can fix, or something we need to prevent in the first place. But let us know in the comments. If there is one extinct animal you could bring back, which would it be?